Hi, this is lesson 101, classifying quadrilaterals. Today we're going to be able to classify quadrilaterals based on their characteristics. A quadrilateral is any shape that has four sides. So again, quad means four, so a quadrilateral is a shape with four sides. So before we start talking about math, I wanted to help you understand how classifying anything works. And when you classify something, it means that you put it into a group or give it a specific name. So I want to use this comparison of science and the solar system and space to kind of understand how these naming systems work. So if you notice, it's kind of like an upside down triangle because it's going from general names to very specific names of places. So Manhattan is a very specific name, a very specific place. The universe is more of a general name. It's much broader. It's a much bigger place. So as you go down the triangle, you're getting narrower and narrower in your names. So for example, the universe is a really big place, and in the universe is the Milky Way. Milky Way is also pretty big, and in the Milky Way is the solar system. Within the solar system, there's planet Earth. Within planet Earth, there's a continent called North America. And as you see, we're getting narrower and narrower and narrower. The place name is getting much more specific. So we can say that one of the countries in North America is the United States. One of the states is New York. One of the cities is called New York City. And then even more specific is the borough, which is Manhattan. We could keep going and get more specific with neighborhoods and streets and things like that. But for our purposes today, we just want to understand how you can give a quadrilateral, a shape with four sides, many different names depending on what category or group it belongs to. So if you think about this sort of true-false activity here, it's a little confusing, so bear with me because it will help you understand the names for the quadrilaterals, even though this is about science. So look at statement one. Is it true that everyone who lives in Manhattan also lives in New York City? Yes, that's true. Everybody who lives in Manhattan lives in New York City. But look at number two. Everyone who lives in New York City also lives in Manhattan. That's false because some of the people who live in New York City live in Queens or Brooklyn or the Bronx or Staten Island. So that's false. So sometimes you can call Manhattan New York City, but you can't always call New York City Manhattan. Does that make sense? So going on, there's a few more examples here. I'm not going to go through every single one because I don't want to confuse you. But basically, this idea is that the more general the name, the more shapes fit in that category. But if the name is super specific, like Manhattan, it can only talk about a very specific place or a very specific group. So let's look at shapes now so that we can understand how this relates to math. So here's a diagram of quadrilaterals about shapes. Going from general to specific. So the most general name that you can give shapes is a polygon. A polygon is all two-dimensional shapes. That's the most general name. Triangles fit under that, rectangles, squares, hexagons, really any two-dimensional shape. But a quadrilateral is a more specific type of shape, a more specific type of polygon. Quadrilaterals must have four sides. Getting even more specific, we then have trapezoids. Trapezoids are quadrilaterals that have at least one set of parallel lines. So you can call all trapezoids quadrilaterals, but you cannot call all quadrilaterals trapezoids. Some of them don't have parallel lines. The next most specific type of quadrilateral is a parallelogram. This is a quadrilateral that has this time two sets of parallel lines rather than one. So that's what makes a trapezoid and a parallelogram different, is that they have different amounts of parallel lines. Rectangles get even more specific. So what makes rectangles special is that they must have right angles. Because they have four right angles, that also makes them parallelograms because there's going to be two sets of parallel sides, and the opposite sides are going to be equal in length. Rhombuses and squares are the two most specific types of quadrilaterals. So rhombuses have to have all equal sides. The only thing that makes a square different from a rhombus is that the square has to have all four right angles, so 90 degrees. Rhombuses that are not squares can have acute and obtuse angles. So squares are more specific than rhombuses are. Now, you can give a quadrilateral more than one name, just like you can go by a nickname, you can go by your last name, you can go by your first name. Shapes can have more than one name too. So as we work through today's problem set, go back to this chart, which is also posted a hard copy on Google Classroom, and you can check out what the most specific names to give quadrilaterals are, and then make sure that it matches the criteria that's listed for the name, okay? And we will see you at 2 o'clock for our Zoom session.